everybody, and welcome to this month's Anime Paint Night. My name's Mr. Kelvin, and welcome back. So, for this month, our Anime Paint Night topic is going to be Sword Art Online. So, our subject matter is going to be Kirito and Asuna. So, inside of the kit, you should see a reference sheet that has, Kirito and Asuna in various different, poses and stuff like that, so you can see what the color looks like, their personalities. You'll also have a watercolor pack, and you will also have the line art that I did for you to paint, and that is Kirito and Asuna together, about to fight. So without further ado, let's get painting.
Alright, so let's get started. Now, this is probably one of the more complicated line arts that I've done, so take your time with this, okay? So, one, we're going to start with the eye for Asuna. I'm using some orange for the eyebrows and the eyeballs. And then, usually I save the hair for last, but this time I'm actually going to start going for the hair first. The reason why I'm doing this is because if I go after the hair at this point, it kind of helps distinguish the lines more clearly, right? Because there's a lot of line art here. And it's just like, oh, what's the hair? What's the cloak? What's the cape? What's the sword and stuff like that? It helps distinguish it a little bit. Don't worry too much about perfecting it and stuff. I would recommend just putting some color in just so you can see where you're going and such. Asuna, she has a good amount of hair actually. But in terms of character design, right? I gotta say, I really like Sword Art Online. I definitely came to appreciate the character designs more after having the opportunity to draw Kirito and Asuna. I was not expecting that, and so actually putting in the colors as well is just like, oh wow, yeah. They knew what they were doing. They definitely knew what they were doing. So once you've gotten the hair in the back, you can start to see oh, there's Kirito from Asuna, or his hair, that separation. It makes it a lot more clear. Gonna go with the longer end for her hair here, so it kind of distinguishes where her clothing were eventually, and then this part right here is important. The hair that's back there, because if it wasn't colored, you might not know if that was her hair and stuff. I tried to add some hairlines to make it clear, but you never know. And so once we get that done, that will be it for her hair. And so we're going to move on to our next target. Alright, and next we are actually going to target some smaller details. So we're going to use the red, and we're going to start working on Asuna's outfit. So Asuna has a lot of white in her outfit, right? But it's accented by a lot of nice solid crimson red because of the crew that she was a part of back in Sword Art Online 1. In the future, you're going to see Asuna have blue motifs and such, but her classic was the red head with the red and white outfit and such. Almost looks kind of reminiscent of the Italian Crusaders and such. But yeah, so we're going to take care of the straps, and then we have some little crosses here, some straps that are on the under part of her breastplate and such. And then we're gonna come down here, I believe, with the lines there, exactly. And then the other part that we're actually going to be using the red for is actually the skirt, and I believe that's going to be underneath. Oh, I haven't gone there yet. I jumped the gun. I thought I was gonna go there next, but oh, there's a little bit more red there underneath the armor plating. I'm thinking about where to go. Can you tell that I'm recording this after I painted? Alright, there we go. Now we're going to the skirt. Very cool. And take your time. Remember, you can add more refining to the colors later on, but for now, our main purpose and our main goal is we're trying to just get the color down so we can have a distinction there. Very cool. Get some more red. Go ahead. Yep, there we go. Now, Sword Art Online, I definitely recommend it, but just be careful. Just be careful, some people's tolerance for the sad things might be different. There's some sad moments in Sword Art Online, but there's also some really cliche moments as well. But sometimes it uses it as a really good vehicle to tell the story, so I can't fault it. It's hard for me to like fully recommend this anime to everybody, but I like it. Season 1 at least. Season 1's good. So give it a shot. And apparently there was a little bit more red on the sleeve there, and that was important because that really distinguishes where Asuna's arm is from Kirito's coat. And we had some buttons that were also red down here, and I'm like searching for anything else that needs red right now, and it doesn't look like it. It looks like I'm thinking about it, and yep, I think it's on to the next target. Alrighty, and next we are actually going to work on the skin tone first. So we're going to start using a lot of water, getting some brown, but instead of like dabbing all the way through, we're just going to put some dots of brown. Because remember, it's watercolor, so the paints spread very, very, very easily. Alright, and then we'll get some more water, and then we're going to use that water to spread around the dots that we've placed. And you see how you don't even need a lot of color. You can just spread it around very easily with the water, and then it'll be able to cover the area that you're trying to color. It's very nice. Once we go ahead and take care of the shoulders, probably going to go up to the face next, get a little bit more water. There we go. And you can feel free to add more pigment later on, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be adding some more pigment as well. Yeah, definitely. This line art is so, like, you have to really take your time because of how close space it is, It's kind of cramped, but once you get it, it's going to look really, really nice. And so I'm taking my liberty of using some shading, so I'm adding a little bit more pigment so that it has a little bit of like lighting distinction. There we go. If the hair is closer to the skin tone there, I try to darken it up there. And adding a little bit more to the ear. And then next, we're going to work on Asuna's sword. The difference between Asuna's sword and Kirito's sword, Asuna is kind of like a fencer. So she has like a foil or a rapier or an escot. Escot. I forgot how they actually say it, but it's like pointy. It's like poke, poke, poke instead of like slash, 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 Very precise movement. That's how Asuna usually navigates things. So we're going to use our light blue, and once we take care of that, I think it is on to our next target. Alrighty, and for our next target, if I'm not wrong, I think I'm actually going to start working on Kirito next. So I'm getting some water, and I'm actually probably going to go for the brown, so I can start with Kirito's skin tone first. Using the same technique that we used for Asuna, use a lot of water, get a little bit of paint on that brush, dab little dots, and then spread it around with a little bit of water. So there we go. We're spreading that around, trying to make sure that we got a little bit of the skin tone underneath the hair. Good, very nice. Smoothing that out. Now Kirito. Oh, Kirito. This main character. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But we're going to make sure the brown comes over here to the neck. There we go. So it distinguishes the neck and like his skin tone from like the shirt that he's wearing and the coat as well. Also, we're going to make sure that the skin that's actually peeking from his fingerless gloves is also colored in as well. Because of how like small the lines are in this line art, really making sure that you take your time and doing the painting really helps you just navigate forward, as we've talked about with Asuna. But for Kirito has a lot of strong lines, so it's really, really helpful for him. Now, Kirito, like opposite to Asuna, Kirito has a lot of black, like a lot. Like, oh my goodness, he was what was it? I forgot what was his little nickname. It wasn't the Black Knight, but like the goodness, I forgot what his little nickname was. But anyway, so he has a lot of black in his coat and just his overall character design. But one of the things that we gotta, like, as you can see right here, I'm trying to like figure out, like, goodness gracious, is this also black? It's like, yes, Kelvin, it's all black. So, but one of the things that we have to remember, just because his color scheme doesn't necessarily scream color, you can still like utilize your water and how much water you use to distinguish between black and also gray. Figure out which areas you'd prefer having to be like really, really dark versus something that's like a little bit more lightened up. And if you'll notice, like, he has a lot of white lines that are going along with the black to just kind of like make the coat really, really, really pop out. So this one took me a little bit, so I'm not going to show you like the entire of me like painting his coat. We're going to skip ahead, I promise. But again, like, I never really was impressed by Kirito's character design before, but as soon as I like started drawing it and I took in the time to paint it, I was like, my goodness, this is like actually like really nice. It's using simplicity in that color to really make a good character design, and I think that's really special. So I hope you enjoy painting his outfit. But after that, we're going to start moving on to our next target, but take your time. Alright, so as you can see, now we've made our way a little bit more through his coat. So I'm taking out like the bottom part area right here, and I'm going to get a little bit more, and I'm going to start tackling the other sleeve over here. Now, Kirito is a pretty good anime protagonist in the sense that he can be pretty relatable, in the sense like he's just an average kid kind of sucked into like a bad situation. Like, he's just like an every gamer kind of dude, right? Like, not saying that every gamer is like Kirito, but like, he was just an average dude. And through those circumstances, he was actually able to learn and grow and mature a little bit. The maturing is like arguable, but still, he's able to become more confident in his abilities and learn how to better protect the people around him in his life. So Kirito's, he's a good character. He's a good character. And when he found Asuna, they didn't get along at first and such, but when they had an opportunity to fight with each other, it was almost as if like they were immediately in sync. It's one of those things where it's like love at first sword fight or whatever and stuff. It's whatever, but genuinely they work very well with each other. And watching the anime and seeing their relationship, there are moments where it's just like whatever, but there's a lot of moments where it's just like, fine, you got me. That's actually kind of cute. So now that we're done with his coat for the most part, we're heading over to his hair. And his hair, guess what color that is? Yes, it's black. But if you'd like, you don't necessarily have to cover it all in black. If you notice, the front part of his hair, I left a little bit of white, and I'm probably going to be doing the same thing with the back of his hair as well, just to kind of give off that vibe that there's sunlight, there's light, there's a little bit of shine in his hair. It's just how I like distinguishing light with hair. So yeah, you don't have to color it all in, but let's move on to our next target. Alrighty, and so for our next target, we are yet again gonna go for black, but this time we're going to handle it a little bit differently. We're gonna handle it like we did the skin tone. So we're just gonna put little black dots like so on the shirt, and then get some water and we're gonna spread it around, because the shirt, we want to make sure it's distinct from the coat, and we're going to make it gray. And so the way we make it gray is when we add a little bit of lighter color for the black, or a little bit more water for the black. So it eases up like that. Then, to add the shading, add a little bit more black. Use the water to spread it around. There you go. Good, and adding a little bit of shading there to distinguish it even further. Now, remember, this video is going at like 2 times speed, so I'm not asking you to like go blisteringly fast with me, you know? Just take your time, genuinely, take your time. But this one's definitely going to take long for you, though. Or it's a longer one. It might take fast for you. I don't know how fast of a painter you are. But let's take care of this little cross that he has on his coat. It's kind of like keeping the coat together. And that's also going to be gray. It doesn't have to be the same gray as the shirt, but I don't think I knew how to do gray any other way, so it is very much gray like the shirt. Now, aside from that, I believe I'm going to be getting some more water so I can add a little bit of gray to the belt. You don't really need much. There you go, just keep using the water to spread that around. Excellent. And then next, we're going to use some gray for like the little patch that's on his left arm, or I guess right arm in the sense that you're looking at the papers on the right side. Then, of course, you got to do the eyebrows. Yes, I made his eyebrows like really, really thick. I think that was because of the water just spreading, but like I kind of like dig it. Kind of like having his eyebrows like really big like that. It's cool. And then, of course, his eyeball, and which is also black. He's got a lot of black in his colors, or rather, that's just the primary color for him. But yes, next target. Alrighty, and next we are going to handle the glove that I had forgotten over here on his left side, which is also going to be, you guessed it, the color black. Yes, indeed. Remember, you don't necessarily have to do the colors that I'm using. You can like do little palette swaps if you want to, color however you want to. That is totally fine. The reference sheet is there if you want to follow along with the color, because I understand not a lot of color here, or like not a lot of color variety, but you know, if you want to follow it, yes, black is gloves. Now we're going to do the sword, which is, you guessed it, also black. In the show, Kirito always has this motif of being like the Black Knight and stuff like that, right? He becomes like a little bit of a legend or mystery, you know. In season 2 of Sword Art Online, or at least the first part of season 2 with it, which is called Gun Gale Online, Kirito is like a little bit of an urban legend, or not even like an urban legend. He's like a legend and such. Like that name rings bells and such. So it's, despite it not necessarily being the most colorful, it actually really, really works, because you don't really see the color black used in such generosity, and yet still be like, man, that actually works. And I have a strong feeling it's because of the white streaks. So like, we finished the sword, right? But look on the right and the left of the sword, it's just like his coat. They also have white streaks. His second sword, though, because he's a dual-wielding boy, is usually blue, at least in parts of the anime. So we're going to use the same blue that we used for Asuna. You can't actually see the sword, but we can see the handle and the hilt. And so we'll add a little bit of blue, like so. Alright, next target. I've got to say, you all have been doing such a wonderful job with this. Thank you so much for your patience. Now, as you can see, I colored the letters for Let's Do This Asuna and stuff like that, you know, shouting at his partner in crime. And the next thing that we're just going to do is we're going to make use of some shading. So, like I said before, we didn't have to refine it earlier, but now I'm going to take a little bit more of the brown, and we're going to tackle the skin tone a little bit more. Just add a little bit more color in the places that are like covered by the coat or by the hair, kind of darkening it up a little bit. Again, you don't have to use too much, just little dabs of pigment, and then using a little bit of water to spread it around. So I'm going to do the same thing for the shirt. Just add a little bit more pigment. Pigment is a generous word when we're working with as much black as we are. But yeah, even with the coat, you see as it dries, it becomes a little bit more gray. So I'm going to try to add a little bit more black in certain areas to make it look like, darker with a little bit of shading, you know what I'm saying? It's interesting. You can have that even with an all black outfit. Now for Asuna, it's a little bit more clearly visible. Just use a little bit of black and use a generous amount of water, and then like underneath the breastplate is a little bit of the shading because of the fact that it like extends out. And then we're going to use the water to spread on the side. There we go. And just even it out a little bit. If you look at the reference sheet, it actually shows a pretty clear vision as to like how to do the shading for each of the characters. So you don't necessarily have to do it like mine. I know I'm not necessarily perfect with how I do the shading, and you don't even have to do the shading, but if you wanted to, you could definitely do that. But just take your time. But I am very, 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 very pleased with your progress. I know this is probably the longest anime paint night that we've done thus far. So you've all done a very good job. So now I'm going to add some more pigment for Asuna in terms of the skin tone. Adding a little bit more shading there, just like what we did with Kirito just a few moments ago. There we go. Get some water, spread that around to make it look a little bit more even. Something that I did not record, but I recommend doing, is going back and tending to Asuna's hair, because her hair is awesome. Add a little bit more pigment there. Let it stand out. Add some shading if you want to, or add some depth. It's very nice. So one of the things that I did with her hair is I took more orange and I just went down her long twin tails that are in the front and such, and it does wonders. It's fantastic. Then I forgot, actually, a little bit of yellow is on Asuna's armor. Only in two spots. But aside from that, I add a little bit more orange to the eyebrows, and this is pretty much it. So well done, everybody. I hope to see you again next month, and thank you for your patience. You did a fantastic job. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.